Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 907, Tuesday, September 29th, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, we have another busy day of news as usual, a lot going on, and of course the focus is still on this fake whistleblower story. And I was just thinking today as I'm driving home from work, and I think I was listening to Dan Bongino show, and you know, we've been hearing this term fake news for so long. It's great that Trump created it. It's better than great because it's a lot more important than just. It sounds just like a funny term, like fake news. But you know, as we're now 2.5, 3 years down the road in the Trump presidency, and he's really focused so much on fake news. He really has shined the spotlight on it. And I was realizing as I was coming home today. You know, there is so much fake news that we never really, I think, realized it before. I think it just kind of went in one ear and out the other. You know, you don't selectively choose forms of media that you don't agree with. So it was easy to ignore it. But Trump has made it such a focal point since he's been president to really focus on how much fake news is actually out there. And it's not just fake news reporting on Trump. It's fake news about everything. Everything is fake news, and so I'm coming home today. I'm thinking there's so much that it's almost like I feel like I'm living like in a fake world. I'm living in a fake world. There's like a real world that used to be, you know, all we really knew, and everything else is fringe. Yeah, you would hear all sorts of fringe things, but now because there is so much of it and it dominates, and there's so much media. Remember, when I grew up, there was no such thing as cable, internet, or anything like that. So we have so much news, so much information, so many communications, and it's just 24/7, never ending. And so now it's magnified by 1 billion times. And so it's really just, it's overwhelming to the point where I literally feel like it's not just fake news and fake news stories. I almost feel like I'm living kind of in a fake world because so much, the majority of information out there is fake, and what's the truth is being pushed farther and farther and farther, and it's almost like a complete flip. Whereas when I was a kid growing up, most of what you would hear would be, for the most part, real reporting of news and real information, and there was things on the fringe that were out there. And now it's almost become the flip opposite. It's the fake information is everywhere. It's all encompassing. And the real truth is getting pushed farther and farther and farther out to the edge, to where pretty soon it's just going to disappear. And so I'm really happy, and now I really appreciate more than ever why Trump coined this phrase fake news. And I think it's real important. And I hope he continues to push it, and I hope people continue to focus on it, because it's getting to be dangerous. It's not just funny anymore. It's really getting to be dangerous. So that was just a thought that crossed my mind coming home today. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on to the first major story, which is still a continuation of the major story that's been going on now for several days regarding this so-called whistleblower story. So now we know that the Inspector General of the intelligence community is the one who accepted the so-called whistleblower complaint, despite the fact that the whistleblower information was based on second-hand information of a phone call Trump had with a foreign leader, and it was the complaint was outside the guidelines for a legitimate whistleblower complaint. Now, the Inspector General of the intelligence community is Michael Atkinson, Atkinson. Atkinson was the former senior counsel to the Assistant Attorney General of the National Security Division. Atkinson was the former senior counsel to the Assistant Attorney General of the NSD. And who was the Assistant Attorney General of the NSD? John Carlin. And we know all about John Carlin. And after he left, very quickly after submitting these illegal requests into the 702 database. He gets the hell out of there, and he is replaced by Mary McCord, who's also up to her eyeballs in the coup. Both John Carlin and Mary McCord up to their eyeballs in the coup. And who was their legal counsel? Who was advising them the whole time that they were involving themselves in the coup? Well, that would have been Mr. Atkinson, the same guy who took the whistleblower complaint. In other words, he is compromised. He is compromised. He is in the target of Mr. Durham because he's right in there with Carlin and McCord. He was the general counsel that was advising them, giving them the legal advice for the things that they were doing, and would have been well aware of all of their activities as part of the coup. In other words, he's got a motive. He's got a motive. So Atkinson could very well be targeted by Durham and Barr for his role in the Spygate coup. And this would certainly be a motive for the latest attempt to carry out this coup plot. This is just an extension. The coup plot against Trump has never stopped. It continues to this day, and this is just another failed attempt. This is all they've got. And I think that probably the reason that they're getting especially spastic over this and the last few instances is because, particularly now, they know that Attorney General Barr has got the FISA report from Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz. And my guess is now that it's made its way into the DOJ that there are still many holdovers, Obama holdovers, who are probably leaking to many of these perps and probably letting them know that, hey, there's some really bad stuff in here and you're involved in it. You might want to lawyer up. So I imagine there's leaks going out to some of these people from their friends in the DOJ, probably letting them know that there's some very damaging things in the Horowitz report and that they better prepare themselves. And so I think they know the Horowitz report's coming out, and I think this may be in some way a response to what they know is coming. And maybe they're thinking if they can create enough of a shitstorm around Trump and around everything else, that when the IG report comes out, it can just be swallowed up by everything else. Because the left-wing media certainly isn't going to cover it. I mean, Horowitz put out his report on Comey, and there was hardly a peep other than people going out to defend McCabe and Comey. When in fact, if you would have watched the Horowitz hearing, he did everything but defend Comey and McCabe. He sent criminal referrals on both. Yet they were out there either ignoring it or defending it. And this is what they'll do with this main IG report. They'll simply either ignore it, or if they can't ignore it, then they'll try to rebut it. And they'll try to surround it with a lot of fake crime, which they'll be targeting Trump with. So I think that that's the plan here, is they know they can't stop the Horowitz report. They know they can't stop certain other things. They're just going to try to bury it. And they're going to try to cover it up by creating a lot of other noise so that they can just muddy up the waters to make it look like it's all just one big web of conspiratorial crime. And they'll target Trump as being the source of all of it. And so this is really the only thing that they can do. And this, again, is why I say it's so important, and why I keep harping on this, is that it's time for Attorney General Barr to step up to the damn podium and make a statement. And he may not be ready to start indicting people yet. His investigation may not be complete. But at some point, you have to pay attention to what's going on in the country, because it's getting pretty damn dangerous. He needs to, at some point, have a press conference and say, and at least always try to pull this thing back and insert some reality into what's going on. And he certainly could. He doesn't, obviously his investigation is still ongoing, but he can step up there and say, okay, well, as you know, we're in the middle of an investigation. We're looking into a lot of things. There's a lot of media reports out there about a lot of things. Some of things being reported, some things not being reported. There's incorrect reports. And so I want to make a statement today and set the record straight on a few things. First of all, our investigation is not complete, but we have acquired enough information to tell us that there was definitely a lot of problems in the 2016 election. We're certainly looking at that now, and these various things that we believe did happen, and he can list off the things that they believe at this point did happen, and that they're still working on compiling the evidence for that. He can also knock down a bunch of the crap that's flying around out there, and at this point, I mean, I think he's the chief law enforcement officer in the country, and you know, things are getting pretty hairy. And here you have a president who's trying to defend himself against people who are still continuing to use the power of the government to try and destroy this president. And I wonder how long, as Attorney General, you sit back and let that happen. That's not justice in this country, and it's dangerous. Someone, and he is the guy, in my opinion, that needs to stand up and at least ways reset this thing and get everybody back onto at least ways some level ground, some reality, because things are getting way out of control, and we don't know when his investigation will be complete, but I'm not sure we'll have a damn country by that time. At some point, he needs to clarify a lot of things that are being thrown around out there, such as this whistleblower case, such as a lot of these other things that we've been hearing about, whether it's on immigration, whether it's on any of these other issues. Barr needs to come out and make some sort of a statement and try to bring us into back to some reality, because things are getting really out of control at this point. And it's getting a little concerning to me at this point. Now, if I knew they were weeks away, we're going to get the Horowitz report, and then they're going to start indicting people or something like that, then maybe we can hold on. Now, maybe Barr knows something. I'm sure he knows things I don't know. But I can tell you this, that, you know, it's time in the very near future, if his investigation is not getting ready to indict people or bring charges or bring this thing to some conclusion and come out and lay out the truth of what actually happened, if we're not close to that point, then he needs to come out and have a press conference and at least ways try to bring us back to some point of equilibrium, because we're going completely off the rails at this point, and I think it's becoming dangerous. Well, we have Stephanie Grisham, the spokesperson for Trump, and Melania, actually, saying that Trump is considering releasing the phone call. And again, I mean, I can understand why you would do this. I don't like it. I don't like the precedent that it sets. But again, this is the fact that Trump has to do this is the reason why I'm saying Barr needs to come out and set the record straight. It shouldn't be Trump. Should not be Trump. Should be the Attorney General who comes out and straightens things out. Things are getting way out of whack. And somebody needs to step up, and it's not really the president's role. He's the one being targeted. But, you know, Trump, I mean, he obviously feels pretty confident that there's nothing that happened in that phone call that's a problem, and maybe he's just sitting back letting the Democrats get more and more and more worked up so that he can, again, embarrass them again, which is what he typically does. He lets them get all worked up, and then at the appropriate time, he drops the bomb on them and shows that there's really nothing to whatever ridiculous claim they're making. And that may be what he's doing. He may be giving them enough rope to hang themselves so he can embarrass them again. Well, after waiting for over a year, Judicial Watch has finally received documents proving without any doubt whatsoever, and I read through these, and many of you by now have also read these. They're on Judicial Watch's website. You can read them for yourself. There is absolutely no doubt whatsoever anymore that Rodenstein was serious about wearing a wire to entrap Trump. And he even says right there, and he's being serious, he's like, hey, I go over the White House, they never search me. I could walk in there wearing a wire, no one would ever know. Rodenstein was going to wear a wire to entrap the president, and it was McCabe who said, yeah, well, that's probably a pretty good idea, but we better check with the legal counsel to see exactly what the legal problems are. And I assume at some point that they found out that there was that could be a legal problem, and maybe that's why Rodenstein didn't do it. But Rodenstein was the assistant AG. He would have known if that was a legal problem, and it certainly would have been. And but he was willing to do it anyway. It's clear from these documents that you read them over on Judicial Watch's website, the conversations between Rodenstein and McCabe. These are not humorous conversations. These are dead serious conversations, and Rodenstein is dead serious about wearing a wire. It's a serious conversation. And we also know that Tash Gohar and Jim Crowell, another DOJ attorney, was in the meeting where this conversation occurred that Fitton got the documents from. So it wasn't just Rodenstein and McCabe in this meeting. Trish Gohar and Jim Crowell were there as well. And of course, Tash Gohar, her name has come up many times in this Spygate plot. Well, I think we have our first nominee for next week's Dumbass of the Week award, and I gotta tell you, this is strong. This is very strong. Coming out of left field, someone who hasn't been on the board in quite a long time is going to make a big push to win Dumbass of the Week this week, and that would be Sheila Jackson Lee. Sheila Jackson Lee. So she's talking to reporters, and she tells them that she has held an AR-15 and that it is as heavy as 10 boxes that you might be moving, and that the bullet that is utilized is a .50 caliber and do not need to be on the street. Yeah, I think let's see, I was in the military. I hauled not only a M16, but I had a grenade launcher on my M16, and my grenade launcher, my M16 with the grenade launcher, weighed about 11 pounds. We also were carrying quite a bit of ammo, backpacks, and sometimes, depending on what you were doing, you might even be tasked with carrying ammo for the 60, the M60. Or you might be tasked with carrying an M60. Depends on luck of the draw. I've done both. But I can tell you that an M16 is not as heavy as 10 boxes unless they're 10 boxes of air. It's not a heavy weapon. It's a very light weapon. It's a very light weapon. Now, as far as .50 caliber is concerned, of course, that's ridiculous. The M16 obviously fires a 5.56 or 2.23, whatever you want to call it. It's not a high-powered rifle. It's got a high muzzle velocity, 5,280 feet per second. But the M16 is not it's not nearly the deadly weapon that the guys on the other side would have been firing at us. AK-47s, they fired a 7.62 millimeter round. It's because we had different ideas. The American military created the M16 because they said, hey, you know what? We don't really want to kill the other guy. We just want to wound him. Why? Because if you kill him, well, the other guys take his ammo and his gun and they keep moving on. If you wound him, it takes 2 other people to remove him from the battle. You take 2 people off the battlefield because they got to tend to the wounded guy. And that's one of the things that was explained to me many years ago about why we had a much smaller caliber round, a less powerful weapon than the people who were opposing us. That would have been the Russians. So that's how it was explained to me. But, as far as taking .50 calibers, I mean, what, does she think that the AR-15, it doesn't actually use a .50 caliber, obviously. She's a dumbass, and that's why she's a candidate for Dumbass of the Week. It obviously doesn't use a .50 caliber round. But she's acting as if the AR-15 uses this special round, this .50 cal, and therefore it has to be taken off the street. Well, I guess she doesn't realize, first of all, she obviously doesn't know that the AR-15 does not use a .50 caliber round, but that there are many .50 caliber weapons that you can buy. My dad had a .50 caliber handgun. .50 caliber handgun. You had to hold on to that sucker with 2 hands really tight, and you had to lean forward, because, man, that thing had recoil you would not believe. It was like a cannon, and he had a laser sight on it. It was beautiful, man. Yeah, I only got to shoot it. I went there one time when he was shooting it, and I fired it maybe 30 rounds out of it or something. Wow, man, what a cannon. But you can go out and buy lots of .50 caliber weapons. And she's just nuts. She's just nuts. And she certainly will qualify, I'm sure, for that comment, saying that the AR-15, she's held one, and it weighs as much as 10 boxes that you might be moving, and that the bullet that it utilized is a .50 caliber. So she's nuts. She's wrong, period. But that doesn't matter. And none of the reporters who she was talking to corrected her. Not a single one. And you know there had to be some of them that know that that's not true. Fake news, because we live in a fake world. We live in a fake news world, that's for sure. Well, it looks like Bill Weld. Yeah, this guy, he's a real treat. Bill Weld. Wasn't he the Libertarian candidate for either president or vice president last time around, 2016? This guy, and he used to be a Republican. Used to be a governor, I think, of like Wisconsin or Minnesota or somewhere. Bill Weld. He's over there on MSNBC, and he says that he wants the death penalty for Trump for speaking to Ukraine about the Biden crime family. I kid you not. This is what is on cable news. MSNBC is putting this kind of garbage. You're going to have a guy like this, you're going to give him a platform to sit there and say the president should be given the death penalty for speaking to a foreign leader about corruption involving an American political family. I mean, this is insanity. Now, I think that Bill Weld should be given the death penalty for treason. That's what I think. How about that, Bill? I think you should be given the death penalty for treason and for lying and for being a total suck-up. Talk about selling out your country. He knows damn good and well what Biden's involved in and all those other criminals he hangs around with. And this guy was running on the Libertarian ticket. What a disgusting pig. I hate these people. I actually hate these people. I really do. And I try not to hate people. I hate these people. I really do. I'd hang every damn one of them. Well, we have another allegation against Charlie Rose. Wow, how many is that? I mean, this guy's already been pretty much disappeared. Does anybody even remember Charlie Rose? I mean, he was like a major player on 60 Minutes. He was on NBC. I mean, this guy was like a heavy hitter in the media. And he got a couple accusations, and it's like, he just kind of quietly disappeared. Now, I know he's probably bankrolled a lot of money over the years, but he better, I think by the time this guy gets done, he's going to be broker than a two-dick dog. Broker than a two-dick dog. Because he now has, I think it's 8 ongoing lawsuits. And now this latest one is a doozy. Because what this woman is saying, and you can read it for yourself, she's making some claims that are really the type of things that could get you some cash. And she got a lot of witnesses, including Charlie Rose's own personal secretary. Now, she was Charlie Rose's makeup artist. And boy, does she tell some harrowing tales. So, obviously, she's lawyering up. She's going to take him to court as well. And I got to think eventually in attorney fees and some of these claims, these are going to be multi-million dollar claims. He's going to be paying out. And I don't know how much cash Charlie laid back over the years, but something tells me by the time they get done with this guy, he's going to be, like I said, broker than a two-dick dog. And you hear nothing from the left. Nothing. If this was a Republican, oh man. And then, of course, we have Nazi Pelosi, who's, of course, maybe slightly more senile than Crazy Uncle Joe. And now she's saying that Biden's Ukraine scandal might be enough to impeach Trump. Yeah, Biden's criminal activity over there in Ukraine, that's probably enough to impeach Trump. Man, oh man, these people are nuts. Nuts. I'm telling you, Trump derangement syndrome is absolutely true. It's real. Or Trump anxiety disorder, whatever you want to call it. And after 2020, when the Democrats get completely destroyed, I expect that you thought 2016 meltdowns were bad. What do you see what happens in 2020? Because believe me, these Democrats that you see them being interviewed all the time, and their mind, the whole country and the whole world has determined that Trump's a criminal. He's the Orange Hitler. He's going to be impeached. And if he's not impeached, he's going to lose in a landslide because everybody hates him. Just wait until he wins in a landslide. And they realize that they've been completely 180 degrees on the wrong polar opposite of the truth. They're not going to be able to handle it. They couldn't handle it in 2016. They certainly won't be able to handle it in 2020. It's going to be much worse. And it's like I said, There's actually going to be, and this is actually happening now. I'm not just making this up. I mean, but there are people who are actually going and getting professional psychiatric counseling. There are people on medication. There are people going through tremendous depression. I was reading a story the other day about a guy who quit his job. He can't sleep. He can't eat. He's a complete wreck 24 hours a day. All he does is cry because Trump won the election. And he thinks that climate change is so close to killing. He believes that in 10 years we're all going to die from climate change. And so he's literally at his wit's end. I mean, this guy's literally suicidal. His entire life has been turned upside down, destroyed over a hoax. And there's millions like him. And in 2020, I'm telling you, you're going to see, I think, millions and millions of Democrats in therapy. They're going to have to create like a separate medical diagnosis, they'll have to open up wings in psychiatric wards for these people. They'll have to come up with new medications. They'll have to come up with new therapy, new treatments. They'll have to come up with like curriculum in schools and colleges to help people deal with the emotional stress of the fact that Trump got reelected. I mean, it's gonna be insane, man. It's gonna be off the wall, and I'm gonna enjoy every single minute of it. But God, it should not be this way, man. Can't these people just educate themselves? But I don't know, man. I think that the indoctrination in the schools has been going on for so long. These people are so heavily indoctrinated. I don't know. I think their minds are gone now. I don't think there's any turning back. I mean, it's like, I think there's a point where you can't dial it back. I mean, it's over. So it becomes like religion. Like trying to get someone to change their religion, and it's very bad for these people. And in a way, I feel sorry for them, but in a way, I kind of don't. Well, we also have John Kerry. John Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam. He was over there on PMSNBC with that nut Joe and his psycho wife Mika. And they were talking to Kerry, and he's like, oh, Trump, this thing about Ukraine, he's impeached. I mean, it's horrible, and it's all doing to help Russia. Somehow, Kerry is trying to make the argument that this conversation Trump had about this whistleblower call somehow was him coordinating with Ukraine to somehow help Russia. I mean, this is just, you got to be out of your mind. You got to be out of your mind to make this argument. I don't have time to go into it right now. But look at what Obama administration, with Kerry as the Secretary of State, offered Ukraine. Blankets and food. Trump has actually given him military arms to stand up to Russians. I mean, it's insanity. Not only that, what makes this interview all the worse is that after they got through trying to beat down Trump with John Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam, after they go through that whole scenario, then you got Psycho Mika literally going, you've got to run, John. You've got to consider throwing your hat in the race. There's still time. You've got to save this country, John. John Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam. Doesn't Psycho Mika remember when he ran for president what happened to him? Doesn't she remember how he got swift-boated? Those same swift-boaters are probably still out there just waiting for him to do it again. There's probably nobody on this planet that has less charisma than John Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam. And get this, his son was involved in the business ventures with Biden's kid. And it was just reported, I saw it on PJ Media, probably reported other places, it was reported that Kerry's son was so troubled by Biden's son getting involved in this clearly shady deal in the Ukraine that Kerry's kid dissolved his business partnership with him. They never bring this up on the Morning Schmo. Schmo doesn't bring it up, and nor does Psycho Mika. Yet they both have to know it. Yeah, go ahead, John Kerry. As like I said, he's one of the three people I thought, once Biden's gone, and he is gone, folks, believe me. It just hasn't caught up to him yet, but he's gone. I've been saying it forever. It's a matter of time. But yeah, it's like I said, there's only 3 people that could actually jump in and fill the void when Biden's gone, and he is gone. And that's going to be the Rotten Reverend, Bloomberg, and Kerry. They're the only 3 I can think of. The only 3 I can think of. But Kerry doesn't have a political organization in place. He can raise a lot of money, but he doesn't have a political organization in place. And has no charisma whatsoever. And he's got a lot of problems himself. And his kids' corruption. And his own corruption. Remember, it was John F. and Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam. It was his State Department that Nuland worked for. He was over Nuland. And she's the one that we now learn was a lot more involved with moving the steel material through the State Department to the FBI than we knew before. It was John Kerry himself who was the final person at the State Department, went all the way to Kerry, that got the Alexander Downhatch Downer information. The Downer information went through the State Department through Kerry to the FBI. So Kerry was the guy who passed not only was he the one who was over both Kathleen Kvalik, Jonathan Weiner, and Nuland, all 3 at the State Department, caught up in all this stuff with Steele. He was also the one who passed along the Downer information to the FBI personally. He's up to his eyeballs in all of this, which is probably why he's on PMSNBC with Psycho Mika and that nut Schmo. Schmo Blow. Wasn't there an intern who died in his office or something? Came up missing or something? I don't know. If you're an intern, you probably don't want to work for Schmo. and Mika, her daddy was the guy who essentially created Al Qaeda. Just ask Jimmy Carter. He was Jimmy Carter's Secretary of State. Let's go back and look at the foreign policy of the Carter years. That was her daddy-o. He's supposed to be this great genius because he wrote the book The Grand Chessboard, where he's been totally wrong. Well, we have Ilhan Omar, one of the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse, doing exactly what I told you. Every other candidate I've said, they all believe the reason they've gone so far left is to get the Ocasio-Cortez and the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse to support them. So now we have Omar, who probably should have already been kicked out of Congress and should be in jail for falsifying legal documents and various other things, but she continues to continue. And so she says that Biden isn't the candidate progressives want. No shit. Obviously. No, Biden isn't going to get the endorsement of the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse, including AOC, the wild-eyed commie. And Omar just basically laid it out for him. He's absolutely 100% totally done now. He's done. Hey, how about this? Breaking news. PMSNBC headline. You are not going to believe this. Are you prepared for this? This was literally an PMSNBC headline. There is no evidence that Biden pressured Ukraine. There's no evidence that Biden pressured Ukraine. And you know that video where he talks about the fact, hey, I told Poroshenko, if you fire the prosecutor, you ain't getting the $1 billion. You got 6 hours. No, that didn't actually happen. No, this was that bold big headline on MSNBC. There is no evidence that Biden pressured Ukraine. Oh boy. Thankfully, though, we had Rudy Giuliani going on Maria Bartiromo's show this morning, telling her that every single day for the next week he is going to be releasing very damaging information about Biden and Ukraine, and he said the biggest bombshell is coming last, and that's going to be when he drops the China stuff, because he said the China stuff, as I told you yesterday, is 10 times worse than the Ukraine stuff, and he's got that too, and he's going to drop it all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back with you shortly. See ya. Bye.